You know, when I think about Winous Point, and particularly from the perspective of the members, this has always been a place that people that were really passionate about waterfowl and had the resources to enjoy such a place as this. This has always been a kind of a back to nature kind of place where they engage in hunting and other forms of outdoor recreation that really reconnects us back.
One of the main parts of Winous is it's always been nature-oriented. And originally, there were a group of naturalists. They were called the Archites. And in 1856, several of those individuals went and formed Winous Point Shooting Club.
Winous Point is legendary in their conservation ethic and has been around for a long time. So Winous Point is just this tremendous example of how a group of hunters can expand beyond hunting into conservation. They are a legendary example of how hunters can contribute to the overall mission of conservation. So the Great Lakes are extremely important for fish and wildlife. The biggest group of freshwater lakes in the world. Around the western basin of Lake Erie are all these great marshes like you have here at Winous Point. And they are tremendously important. They're the best coastal wetlands in our state and probably in this Great Lakes region. And they sustain and support so many different species of wildlife.
Much of the research that Winous Point has done has really helped to inform the large-scale conservation planning in the upper Mississippi River and Great Lakes region. There's been some really fundamental research on food availability for waterfowl and utilization rates by waterfowl, but then also a lot of attention to the other species that use the marshes. So I think the contribution there is, again, sustaining the interest and need for information about waterfowl, but also considering it in the context of the whole marsh ecosystem and really advancing our knowledge of that.
Ducks Unlimited, and we have done several research projects together. In all those things, we've worked with all sorts of different partners, but one of the key ones really has been Ducks Unlimited and their advice, and also their work with research programs in the area.
And I think the other thing that's really important is the integration of waterfowl management with the needs of other species. That's what the future, I think, of the Conservancy is. From my perspective, I've thought of the Winous Point marshes as a nice natural outdoor laboratory to basically study these things and the potential to experiment with those things and look at the commonalities as well as the differences between managing for game species like waterfowl versus other species that we also care about that are nevertheless not hunted.
Hunters have done a lot for conservation over a long period of time, and if it wasn't for hunters 150 years ago or more, we wouldn't have what we have today.
Hunting supports conservation of wildlife, and not just the game species, but as well as non-game species. And I think it does that through the conservation of habitat, and that's a big contribution of the Marsh Conservancy too here. This is a very large critical area for migratory waterfowl, and just having this conserved and managed in an appropriate way that meets the needs not just of waterfowl during fall and spring migrations, but the other species that use this area. I really believe that without the Conservancy, without the Shooting Club, and the support for that habitat, we would probably see this area, highly developed either for agricultural or urban uses. We would not have these marshes. I'm thoroughly confident of that without the Conservancy.
There are constant threats. There's the threat of development of the shoreline. Water quality is another big threat that we're working on a lot right now. That water quality needs vast improvement. And when it's improved, then the aquatic life and all the wildlife will be better off. And people will be better off too, because so many people get their drinking water from Lake Erie, and we need to get the water quality improved in Lake Erie.
Probably the greatest threat facing the Great Lakes and the waterfowl that live there and the people that live there is declining water quality. That's a huge issue that's been ongoing for years. So the best thing that Ducks Unlimited can do is continue to work with waterfowl clubs, other private landowners, and agricultural producers to restore and protect wetland habitats that not only benefit the waterfowl resource, but help improve water quality. And in this way, we're benefiting not only the waterfowl, but the people of the region.
We think the future is bright for waterfowl. It'll be bright as long as hunters stay involved, because hunters really push that train. And we are building more wetlands, which makes more places for waterfowl to nest and survive and complete their life cycle, but it also provides great places for people to hunt. So hunters have proven time and time and time again that they're the advocates for conservation, and they kind of lead the way. It's basically a hunter-driven conservation movement in North America.